Welcome to another episode of the Chicks on the Right show. Today we are back with our friend and sponsor of the show, Zach Abraham from Bulwark Capital Management. And Zach, our producers saw this story, which ended up being made up, but is still a really good story, about this chick in New York City who wanted to date a finance bro because the wealth status and all that. So her way of going about it was to steal their pickup orders at different restaurants and then DM them with the phone number that was listed on the receipt thingy to try to strike up a romance. So the first question is, were you a finance bro, and did chicks try these clever ways to land you?
you know, it's so, man, it's funny how culture changes. I remember being in high school and a girl that I actually still know today, she's a friend of mine in high school, and I remember her saying something like, "Oh, what do you think you're gonna do?" or whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna run a Wall Street bank, or I'm gonna be an investor or something like, and everybody looked at me like, "Yeah, it's so boring." Like nobody cared back then,
Like, what a nerd.
Yeah, right. And then everybody got money obsessed. So when I became a finance bro, they didn't really exist. Everybody kind of thought I was kind of nerdy, I guess. I was like a nerdy
Mhm.
jock.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I didn't, I certainly didn't get any extra attention because my major was in econ and finance. I could promise you that.
Yeah. But I
Now
think
it's
now
a thing.
it is a thing now. I think
I,
now, like, the kind of the nerdy degrees now are hot. And
yeah,
before it wasn't that way, like in the 80s, right? It wasn't that
yeah,
way.
I mean, it's why I've started wearing, t-shirts around the house with my degree on it, or like just a picture of an abacus and a graphing calculator, so people will know I'm really into math. You know what I mean? So it's these are new cues. Like, this is the new bait
Uh-huh.
for fishing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to be like,
Yeah.
hey, do you know what I scored on the math section in my SATs?
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah.
So no, this is the thing. There's a part of it that I think is really there's a part of it that I think is really sad, just because it's so materialistic. Then there's a part of me though that's like, you know, I, I feel like that's kind of a tip of the cap to a lot of women out there. Like, you know, I remember being so frustrated. You look at some of the girls these guys that date. I remember as early as like 16 or 17, looking at the girls going, how do you think that bum is ever going to provide? Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? And that was kind of an early way kind of a weird way to think when you're 16 or 17 years old. But yeah, I'm
Uh-huh.
kind of caught in that in between where you're like, well, that's really shallow. Don't do it that way. But at least you're thinking ahead, maybe,
Yeah, I know. You look at some of these
Maybe.
these boys now, it's like, but Travis is so hot, mommy. He looks like an alpaca with his hair. You know, like, how they all have the
Yes.
hair. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah.
and you shake your head and go, "Oh my God, let's hope that kid is
Yeah.
good at calculus because he's not good at doing his hair." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
But now it seems like girls, that's on the requirement list now for women now. I mean, it was so different. Daisy and I were talking recently about the movie Mischief. Do you remember that movie? Did you ever see it?
loose. I think so. I mean, I'm a movie file, so I'm assuming I probably ran
It's
into
like
it.
so our generation, right? Like I think it was Kelly Preston. And anyway, she falls for the bad boy, right? Or one of the girls in the movies falls for the motorcycle guy who can
Yeah.
offer her absolutely nothing, but it's
Right.
true love. And so she runs away with him, and it's like supposed to be this happy ending. And now they're thinking about what can this guy provide, almost to a point where it's unhealthy, I think, because
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to in all seriousness. I think it's really, I think that especially women, um, again, I remember thinking it in high school where you look at these girls and sit there and go, hey, just because you're dating this guy at 16 or 17 doesn't mean you're going to marry him. But what in
Yeah.
the world are you wasting your time throwing those pearls before those swine? You know what I mean? So part of you is kind of like, okay, at least you're thinking ahead. On the flip side, kind of like we've talked about before, I think that at least in my lifetime, I don't think people think about money in the right way. I think if you have money positioned incorrectly, I think it can be one of the most disappointing things that you ever achieve or accomplish because people assign so many things to it. And yeah, I think the best thing I ever heard was money's a magnifier. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Whatever you are, you're going to be more of that, whether it's good, whether it's bad. And I think people place far too much importance on that. Yet, and kind of like you were saying, Mark, yet I do kind of tip of the cap to girls thinking about, hey, before you decide to settle down, like all in the name of love, maybe you should think about some practicalities. Like, would you like to be able to go on vacation? You know,
Right.
would you like to be able to own a home? Would you like to be able to retire at some point? I was listening to this woman talking to this doctor, kind of like this, helpline kind of show the other day, and she was talking about my husband needs to engage because I've been financing his dream. Well, for 10 years now, these people have been married. This guy wants to be a musician, and what that entailed was sitting at home practicing all the time.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
no.
And I'm sitting there going, that guy should write a book about how to make a woman not respect you and divorce you inside of 10 years. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so there's a part of you that's like, okay, good. Do all the think ahead. Don't think about just today. Don't get caught up with the flow, right? Is what the kids call it. Right? I sound so old, for God's sake. It's what the kids call it these days.
Right.
Like, pardon me, I got to go yell at a kid to get off my front yard.
Right. Shake a rake.
Y-
Shake a rake, Zach.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, my daughter was, not dating, but was kind of seeing a guy, and I remember having that conversation with her, going, "Hey, what are you thinking here? What do you think this guy's like? Not that money is the only thing that matters, but if you're picking a spouse, somebody said to me at one point, and I've heard it multiple times, right? There's no more important decision you will ever make, and there's no more defining situation you will make about yourself other than who you pick to marry, right?
That's
Right. Well, I mean,
And
I saw something the other day that, and I feel like this is probably correct, but the biggest indicator of success is if you look at somebody, like if you look at a man, for instance, the biggest indicator of his success is you look and see, and he has a family, he has a wife, and he has kids, and usually he has lots of kids, and that's the indicator. You can tell this guy's going to be successful. That's usually a guy who is successful has all of those things. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. And I'm not doing it so eloquently,
yeah,
but you know what I mean? It's like there is some sort of a converse relationship, like they're together. Those things go hand in hand. And so if you have a great relationship, you're going to be successful. If you're successful, you're going to have a great relationship. You're going to have children. You're going to have a wonderful family. I mean, those things all go hand in hand. Usually it's not like the douchebag who is,
Unless it's Andrew Tate, which he obviously completely undoes that theory.
I knew that
Yes.
was going to happen. I like lobbied that up. There it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, you right. You always have those scumbag versions
exception.
of that, right?
There's
You always
always
have
an
those
exception.
scumbag. But I think that there's a correlation there, and I mean, it certainly was for me. Like, I think back to when my wife and I first got married. Before we had, when we first got married, there was a part of me, for instance, really weird deal. I remember the first time I ever got nervous on an airplane. I loved aviation as a kid growing up. First time I ever got nervous on an airplane was on our honeymoon. Like, all of a sudden it wasn't me, right? Just on the airplane, right? There was more risk than just me. And then I remember thinking that I was a really driven, hardworking guy until we had two kids and a third on the way. Right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so, I definitely think that if a man wants to, I hear some of these guys talking about, well, I need to accomplish some things before I get married. And I'm like, buddy, if you want to accomplish some things, it's probably
Get
best to get married first. You
right.
know, it's
Right.
probably best to get married first, because if you marry the right woman, she's going to be an incredible, help
Mm-hmm.
to any type of bettering you're trying to do of yourself. She's going to help along those
Yes.
those lines. She's also
Mm-hmm.
going to put a boot in your neck when you need it,
Mm-hmm.
and a knee in your back when you need it, because at times we do.
Right.
And then just the other thing too is just that motivation. If you're working for a bunch of people and a bunch of little faces that run at you when you walk in the door at night, that's a heck of a lot more motivating than your buddies thinking that you have a lot of money.
Right. And
You know?
the same thing goes for women too. I mean,
Yeah.
not to sound all feministy or anything, because we're not like super big feminists, Mock and I, but we wouldn't have been able to achieve what we've achieved if it hadn't been for the support of our husbands, honestly.
That's right.
And you
Yeah.
know, I honest to God, I know we would not be doing what we're doing right now if it wasn't for that. So
Yeah.
Totally.
that narrative out there is, especially in the younger generations, this marriage and kids hold you back kind of thing.
Right.
And I look at them and I'm like, well, it depends on what you mean holding back. By holding back, do you mean that there aren't selfish parts of you that are going to be forced to grow up and advance and
Hmm.
work harder and improve? Oh yeah. Yeah, it definitely makes you grow. But I mean, if you want to reach the greatest iteration of yourself, including, the least selfish you can be, the least driven by love for other people, you know what I mean? Like all the things that
Hmm.
make you a good person.
Yeah.
I love this because it's not you're saying these things, which is such a good message right now because I feel like so many young people, women and men, are putting off the relationship, the family, all of that stuff.
Yes.
And you're talking about why maybe that's not a good idea, away from and apart from all of the trad wife and like trad man conversations that are real popular right now. And I love that. I love that you're doing it without that and aside from that, because it's such a good piece of advice
It's a
to
great
find
message. You're
to
absolutely
not
right.
put off finding your mate because you're striving for some financial goal.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, and then the other thing to me also too is I think people are really conflating inputs with outputs here, right? Like meaning if you want to live a successful life, let's all acknowledge that that requires more than money, despite what
Yes.
the internet and TV will tell you. Okay.
Totally.
So if that's what you're after, then marrying a really good person is an assist on that level, not a hindrance.
Yes.
Children are an assist on that level. They're not a hindrance.
Totally.
Um, it's all about making, and this is the thing where I want to, like I tell young people, hey, if you want to be financially successful, don't focus on being financially successful, right? Focus on doing the right things.
Mm.
Focus on living on less than you make. Why? Will that help you be financially successful? Yeah. It also prevents a lot of financial stress, which will just
Yes.
suck you dry, right? There's don't spend too much. Why? Financial reasons? Yeah. There's also again practical reasons. Don't burn up a bunch of resources on things you're not going to care about just to impress people you don't even like, right? Um, so like but conflating the inputs with the outputs, meaning uh, all too often I think that we're looking at the residue of a good life and we're saying, okay, I need to pursue those things, and you go, no, 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 no. They didn't pursue those things. Those things are there. They don't have a shelf full of trophies because their goal was to have a shelf full of trophies. They have a shelf full of trophies because they worked their tail off every single morning and got out of bed at 5 a.m. and worked when you were sleeping. And right? It's
Yes.
we're conflating like the mission with the evidence of a life well lived. And I try to tell young people this all the time. I have not seen a young person that doesn't really live a disciplined life, but focus on finding a spouse, putting that at the top of the list, picking a really good spouse, living, focused on living that way, focused on building a life, living a life about, helping other people, right? Making the right decisions, regardless of which direction that takes them. I've never seen a young person like that not find some level of professional and financial security and satisfaction.
It
Um,
all ties together.
yeah, it does. And then the other adage, and you guys this is kind of scary advice to give young people, but it's true, and it's been true in your case, it's been true in mine. And it is scary at times, but it's true.
Hmm.
Figure out what it is that you love to do and you're passionate about doing, and do it
Hmm.
because the money will follow. And, it may not be superstar money, it may not be professional athlete money, but boy, it sure is easy to be good at what you do when you actually like what you do, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice to,
Life, love, and financial advice, all from Zach Abraham. Who would have
yep.
thought?
Yep. He does it all, ladies and
He does it
gentlemen.
all. That's right.
Well, and
Uh-huh.
to make you all feel better about where that advice came from, none of it originated here. I'm just passing it on. So
Well, how
let's
can
just
people
pass
get
on knowledge.
more of your pearls of wisdom?
Yeah, no, the easiest way to do it is go to bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com. or sign up for the podcast at knowyourriskpodcast.com. And you can find us on social media, on Instagram, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Just Google and search Know Your Risk Podcast, and not too hard to find.
Thank you, Zach.
Awesome. Thanks,
All right.
Zach.
Thank you, ladies. Fun as always.
Investment advisory services offered through Track Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Track 24244.